Hi everyone, day 4, Tanya here. Welcome back. And for those of you that have been following for the previous 3 days, thank you very much. Hope you've had a good day. Today here in Scotland it has been 18 degrees, but it has felt like as if it's been 25. It's been hot and clammy, but it's nice to actually get the sunshine and get a bit of heat as well. So, we've got a tendency within Scotland to always refer to the weather and always sort of like complain sometimes, oh, it's too hot or it's not hot enough and it's not brilliant and all that kind of stuff. It's just one of those things that happens here. And that sort of made me sort of think, well, what do I really want to sort of cover off in the topic today, other than just sort of like do the kind of background update that I've been doing. And it's we need to be careful what we're actually wishing for or hoping for, or what our goals are. We need to be specific, because if we're not specific, then we'll get something that we wished for, and then when we get it, after all the effort that we've put in to achieve that, then we can actually feel deflated because we've not really identified the true why we want something, why we're wishing for something, and understanding what the implications of that may have on our overall life. And a prime example of that has been when we sort of moved from Greece over to Scotland back in April 1989, just before I turned 17. I got my wish. I had been wishing for the full 12 years that I had been living in Greece that I wanted to move back to Scotland. And there was a number of reasons for that. I didn't like the heat in Greece, the weather. I'm not a hot, I don't like a lot of heat. I prefer the kind of cooler weather. I actually am one of those people that enjoys the rain and the kind of colder kind of climate. Not extreme cold, but still the kind of Scottish weather is just perfect for me. So I'm in the right location. But back when I was 17, that is what I wanted. I wanted to live in Scotland. So I got my wish. I got to move back. It was a period of adjustment for our family unit, because culturally it's totally different, Scotland, to the way the kind of pace of life in Greece is, but also the kind of cultural and the kind of mindset beliefs and the kind of societal beliefs. And the reason that we came over to Scotland was educationally wise. I wanted to go to university, and at the age of kind of 16 I wanted to go in and do accountancy, and the opportunities for me to go and study in Greece and become an accountant were fairly limited. So the decision was made, rather than me attempting to do my final exams and not getting the kind of placement that I was sort of hoping, because in Greece, the way that the educational system is, you set exams, and then based on the scores that you achieve in those exams, you actually get placed in university. So you don't get to choose which university you want to apply for. It's wherever those scores gave you a placement. So for all I knew, we were living up in the mainland in Greece. I could have ended up in Crete, so that wasn't necessarily where I would have wanted to go and study. I would have preferred to study either in Athens or in Thessaloniki, the kind of second city in the country, but we didn't have those kind of options. So the easiest solution on the face of it was to come over to Scotland and complete my final 2 years of high school, and then I could apply to the universities that I wanted to apply to. So that's what ended up happening. We came over. But the thing that I hadn't factored in at the age of 16 heading into 17 is that all my friends were in Greece. So I was coming into a school environment where everyone was in either their own kind of cliques or had been with their friends for years, and a stranger coming into that mixed, people are not as open and social as they are in Greece. And that was the kind of I hadn't made that mental connection that would have possibly been an outcome. So for the 2 years that I was in high school in Scotland, what I opted to do is, because I didn't have a circle of friends, I had students that I went to school with and I conversed with while I was at school, but I didn't have friends out with school. So I opted to work at the weekend, so I got pocket money and I earned enough cash to be able to go back to Greece and visit my friends in the summer holidays. So that's what I opted to do. But it just highlighted that my wish was, I just want to live in Scotland, but not thinking what are the ramifications of that wish and how is that going to impact my life. So going from a very kind of social environment, being in Greece and like being friends with everyone in your class, and you go out and back in Greece in the 80s, there wasn't kind of restrictions on being able to go out on a Saturday night. So we had a curfew of 10 o'clock, but it was free and it was safe for you to be able to go out, and there was a lot of kind of restaurants and cafes that you could go and socialize with your friends. And that's something that we did from probably the age of 13, that we were doing that on a kind of weekly basis. So there was a lot of social activities on kind of Friday night and a Saturday night. To then come to Scotland, where there is an age limit for being able to go out into pubs and clubs, where you had to be 18 years old. And because of the kind of way that the schooling works in Scotland, well, in the UK in general, you could have people that are actually 17 up until they actually finish school. So not everyone would be of the legal age to be able to go out. And that's back in the days where you couldn't get fake IDs and be able to go out and do that. So it was a more kind of less social, kind of active environment. And I'm not saying that that was the all and be all, but from a kind of that age group, when you had your kind of group of friends and you were socializing, to then come to an environment where you don't have that, that was a bit of a shock to the system for me. And the family dynamics were actually quite emotive, because everyone's expectations of what the move would have been like created a lot of emotional charge within the kind of family unit. And rather than being able to sort of like be open and discuss things and be able to air things in a kind of reasonable way that you can actually then find solutions going forward, there was a lot of dysfunction in there. Everyone sort of like kept to themselves, and where there was things being shared, it was maybe not in the most kind of constructive way. So I carried a lot of guilt, because I felt personally that the whole reason that we came to Scotland was in order for me to go to university, because that is what my dream was. I wanted to go to university. I wanted to study and become an accountant. So that was the kind of main goal. And the fact that my mum, my dad and my sister weren't hitting all those high expectations, and they weren't having a great time, it created a fair bit of friction within the family unit, and I took it very personally. So at the age of 17, and this is something that there is, I'm sort of going to mention the fact that at the age of 17, I was so dissatisfied and unhappy because of the kind of the guilt and shame that I felt. And this is where mentally I had created that scenario, not necessarily because that is what my parents and sister felt, but that's what I carried. And I did attempt to commit suicide at that age. And I'm not going into the details of it, but clearly I wasn't successful. And in hindsight, I'm glad I wasn't successful. But it just goes to show that someone that's happy and content 1 minute, then circumstances can change. And even if it is something that you're actually wishing and aspiring for, the reality is, even when you get that thing, so I was living in Scotland, so I got my wish come true, I wasn't then happy. I wasn't satisfied, because I hadn't thought of what are the knock-on impacts. Am I going to have friends? How am I going to create new friends? How am I going to get to that happy place? And it took several years for me to get to that place where I felt content with life, and I was sort of like enjoying the little things rather than it just being all goal orientated and I need to study and I need to pass exams and I need to qualify. So if anyone out there is actually struggling with not being that their wishes and the reality of their expectations are not fully aligned, please reach out and find help, because there is nowadays, there is help at the end of the phone, there is help on a over the internet. There's people that you can actually speak to, and people are more open to mental health now and well-being and wanting to support each other. So don't feel that you're alone and that you can't reach out to people. So please do that. The reason why I'm sharing that is because I know I've been to dark places, and it all started with this genuine kind of, oh, this is what I want, and I genuinely thought that's what I want. And then the reality of what I wanted didn't give me the happiness and the pleasure and everything that I thought it was going to give me at that moment in time. It took several months later and years later as a result of that. So be very careful what you're actually wishing for. Be specific, understand why you want something and why it's important for you, and share with people. People that care and love you want to be there and support you. So don't hold it and carry it inside like I did. Actually share, open up and share. If anyone is going through a tough time and they're needing any support and I could potentially sort of help, please leave a comment or send me an email that will be down in the description below. We don't have to suffer in silence anymore. There are opportunities out there to be able to share and feel compassion and love and kindness. So on that note, I'm going to sort of like, I'm in a very good place now, and this is me going through the whole kind of journey, but it's about sharing and being authentic with what I've gone through. And if anyone wants any more kind of sort of like support that they can actually get, or any kind of phone numbers, I'll put some information on the link below down for the UK kind of Samaritans and phone lines that you can actually reach out for help. And I'm going to leave that with life is amazing, but we need to take the blinkers off to actually see the opportunities that life actually is giving us. So go out and seize the day, have the most amazing day. And remember, there's always choices, so choose wisely. Until tomorrow, goodbye.